Hello and welcome to another episode of Golden Nuggets with Silvia Eldawi. And today, we're not global, we're not gone global, we've just gone up the road to Ras Al Khaimah.
Northern Emirates.
Northern Emirates. So it's kind of like semi-global. We have none other than Neema Kataria, the managing partner of Hunt & Harris, which has been awarded the top real estate agency in the Northern Emirates for 7 years in a row, which is as long as the award has been running.
Correct.
Welcome to the show, Neema.
Thank you so much for having me.
And actually, you will also know, well, you may not know, but Neema's partner
It's Wendy.
Wendy Stapleton, who was Lewis Alsop's saviour that he mentioned.
That's right, yes.
In 2006 or something, she plucked him out of obscurity at Sherwood's.
That she does do.
No, into Sherwood's, yeah. So you've been in the real estate industry since when?
2002.
Tell us about it. What was it like back then?
Very different to what it is back now. Very few companies in the UAE real estate market. So the ones that I can remember off the top of my head, Better Homes.
Did you do a stint at Sherwood's?
No.
Okay.
And nowhere. None of those big names. So Better Homes, Astico, Ocean View. Those were pretty much the original brands that were here, that people would be probably familiar with still, that are there now.
And how did you get into it?
So I moved over from the UK. I was supposed to start work in an IT consultancy.
Yes to the British expats.
Yes. That didn't work out, and I was offered a role in helping up a friend set up a real estate agency, running and managing it. I thought I'd do it temporarily until I found something a little bit more permanent in the field that I wanted to be in, and I ended up staying. The rest is history.
Yeah, isn't it
now,
funny?
22 years later.
Yeah. Nobody ever grows up thinking, I want to be in real estate.
Correct.
It's typically a role or an industry that you end up in.
Yes.
Same with me.
Yes.
I actually studied media with film and video production.
Oh, wow.
Dropped out, but didn't plan to be in real estate. So I want to know, because you started 2002.
Yes.
And I started 2001 in the UK. So how different was UAE real estate to what it is now?
So back then, there was very little in terms of development. So when Freehold was announced, the first EMAR6 were the first buildings that were announced. JBR thereafter from Dubai Properties, and then Nakheel announced Shoreline Apartments and the villas. So in those days, there was very little to sell. Essentially, people were just buying those properties and then flipping them on for very little in terms of profit.
Right.
So the first property I sold, I think, was Shoreline, a 2-bedroom apartment. Someone had put a down payment of like 10%. It was 800,000 in those days, the actual value of the property. So they'd paid a 10% down payment, and we resold it for a 2% premium. And
they were probably over the moon.
They were over the moon because it was in the space of like 2-3 weeks. Yeah. But there was no real estate offices. People were doing deals in the sand. So I remember we were outside Media City. There was barely any buildings there. We literally just sat in 2 cars and negotiated this deal and kind of drew up some paperwork on a piece of paper and said, right, okay, we'll meet a few days to do the NOC and do the transfer. And that's pretty much how the real estate market operated in those days.
And when did you move to Ras Al Khaimah, working in Ras Al Khaimah?
So I was with the first company, which was Profile, for a good 10 odd years, until they closed down in 2008, 2009. And then I bought into Hunt & Harris and became a partner with Wendy.
Since 2009?
Yes.
Okay. And this show is going to be predominantly about Ras Al Khaimah.
Yes.
Because not much is known about it until recently. It's hitting the news. A lot of hype and excitement around Win coming in. So let's just talk about RAK. Do you know what Ras Al Khaimah means?
I actually don't.
I know.
That's really bad. That I don't know.
Okay, so here's a little lesson, an Arabic lesson.
Tip of the...
Ras is head in Arabic. Al is the or a. And Khaimah is like a tent. Am I right? Tent. tent or like a gazebo or something. So head of the tent.
Tent. And I remember it being tip or toe, so hence where the tip came from.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've only been there twice in the 7 years that I've...
Wow.
and just generally like a weekend trip to at some point you had like 3 hotels and that was it.
That's most people.
That's
Waldorf.
most people's experience of, so Waldorf, Hilton.
Rixos is the big one.
And you've got the Ritz-Carlton as well.
Yes.
Right. So that tends to be the reason why people go if they live in the other Emirates. It's kind of a getaway place.
Correct.
But now it has got all eyeballs on it. Can you tell us a bit why?
Even prior to the eyeballs, I have to say there's quite a few people that would do the commute. They live in Ras Al Khaimah, but potentially work in Dubai, maybe towards the airport or just past the airport. It's pretty much the same commute. I mean, I've done, I live on the Palm, so I've done Palm to the airport. On a bad day, it could take me 40 minutes. And it's the same from Ras Al Khaimah to the airport.
Okay.
So when you think about value for money, people would definitely be open to living in Ras Al Khaimah.
And I imagine there's just one at the time, Al Hamra Village.
No, you've got Al Hamra Village, you've got Marjan Island, you've got Mina Al Arab, you've got the Cove. You've actually got quite a few freehold developments along the coast, which offer good value for money.
Okay. And what's happening?
What's happening?
What's all the buzz around
obviously,
RAK?
since the win
Announcement.
there's been a much larger buzz around Ras Al Khaimah. It's kind of changed the perception of people. It's also changed the mindset where people were like, no, we would never invest in Ras Al Khaimah. Now people are beginning to see the potential, especially with the new brands, with the developers as well. I think it's also opened their eyes up to a different potential other than Dubai. The likes of Emaar, Ellington, the bigger players here have finally said, oh, actually, Ras Al Khaimah is looking interesting now. So, I think the win definitely helped with that announcement. But prior to that, Select were already there with one of their developments. You've got RAK Properties, Al Hamra have always been there as developers and building and have believed in Ras Al Khaimah. But now it's just opened up to a little bit more interest.
And what else can we expect on Al Marjan Island?
So Marjan Island, you've got Nikki Beach. The ones that are interesting for me are Nikki Beach because it's a lifestyle, it's a brand. Nobu, Ushuaia.
Now, Nobu, the hotel.
Nobu, the hotel. Ushuaia, Ibiza have just announced a project.
Ushuaia.
Yes.
Okay. Oh gosh, I had many a great night there back in 2000.
So in terms of even those kind of brands, to see the potential of Ras Al Khaimah, to want to invest in building a lifestyle brand hotel, it's just interesting. Address is another one. So those are the key ones for me that really stand out, that bring not just a hotel and more accommodation to Marjan Island, but also lifestyle, party, restaurants, just everything that goes with it.
So it's going to be the next hotspot.
Yes.
Undeniably.
Yes. 100%.
Now, all of a sudden, every Dubai, Abu Dhabi agent is a RAK expert.
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
In fairness, it's funny because you've got people trying to sell Ras Al Khaimah. And agents that I've known for a long time, and they'll call me and say, how do we do a transfer? What are the transfer fees? I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to be fun. I think it's fine, those agents trying to sell off plan, but they definitely need to understand the nuances and the processes of how the transfers will then be done. Rental market thereafter, what's the processes? Because I don't understand how these agents are selling to investors without having all of that information in place.
It's uncommonly known that each of the Emirates have their own laws and regulations when it comes to landlord and tenant law, when it comes to the processes for transfer, and so on. So to give you an example, so I've started, I do the Abu Dhabi broker courses, so, I kind of birth agents into. So I do the Abu Dhabi broker course, which the laws are very different to Dubai laws.
Yes.
You can't just assume, like Dubai, you have to give 12 months notice to evict a tenant. In Abu Dhabi, 60 days.
Yes.
No reason needed. Okay. Dubai, it has to be one of for reasons. Otherwise, you can't evict.
Correct.
So many different, so many nuances. Is there anything we should know about RAK that is totally different to the way it's done in Dubai?
I think it's fantastic that Dubai have these laws in place because you know where you stand. Whereas with Ras Al Khaimah, it's very open to interpretation.
Right.
So essentially in Dubai you would have a Form F. So when you're trying to sell a property, people would sign a Form F. In Ras Al Khaimah, it doesn't exist.
Right.
So people have their own MOU formats that we used to have back in the day before RERA was established. So again, all of these things are very open to interpretation, especially if you haven't got I'd say a foolproof contract. So it might say one thing, but if it's interpreted in a different way, so what is your recourse? There is no recourse, essentially. You have to open up a case, you have to appoint a lawyer who then has to go to RAK court to fight that case. Whereas here it's a little bit more clear cut in terms of, what you sign for is what you get. If you pay the 10%, you've got a specific time frame. The NOC process can also take a lot longer in Ras Al Khaimah. So when people think, it
only takes a couple of weeks in Dubai.
It will only take us a couple of weeks. The process can be a little bit longer in Ras Al Khaimah.
What's the longest you've known?
3-4 months.
Wow.
Where a title deed is not in place. So prior to, so you'd get, I suppose, what you get in Ras Al Khaimah is the rules can change overnight.
Right.
So previously the developer would allow a transfer without a title deed. So you'll go and sign an MOU with a process in place. And then overnight they'll say, actually, now you can't. And a title deed needs to be in place. So then you've got to go through the process of obtaining the title deed, which isn't simple and straightforward. That can take a few months. So yeah, we could have 4 to 6 months easily. Worst case scenario. Average is probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
But worst case scenario could be a couple of months.
And is there anything that investors should know? Because if they are getting advised by Dubai agents that might be saying things like, to evict a tenant, you have to give 12 months notice. Like, what is the correct advice that should be given to home buyers in RAK?
So the most important thing is to ensure that there is the government contract in place. So people still try and use I don't know if you remember, but back in the day in Dubai, there used to be a blue tenancy contract.
Darling, I've only been here since 2017.
Okay.
But it was a little bit blue.
It used to be a blue piece of paper. So you type it on, both parties would sign. So people still try and get away with that blue contract, which has no terms and conditions on it. So you need to ensure that there's a municipality tenancy contract in place, that where you can register all the utilities, everything is registered and in place, because when you keep it in the name of the landlords, a lot of people try and keep the FIWA. There's, instead of DIWA, it's called FIWA there. They try and keep it. They try and keep it in the name of the landlord, and thereby if the tenant does disappear, then the landlord would be liable for those bills. So it's ensuring that everything is registered and it's above board, rather than try and cut corners and then you're left standing with a problem which you can't resolve.
And what about notice periods, tenant eviction?
So notice periods generally in Ras Al Khaimah, we try and push for, at the end of the tenancy contract, you can provide notice. So at the end of the tenancy contract, if you've now purchased a property and you want to go and live in it, you are not forced to renew that tenancy contract.
So
that's very clear.
These are contractual terms,
Correct.
Not statutory terms.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so there's no laws when it comes to governing.
None whatsoever. Generally, in terms of rental increases, it's after the second year.
Okay, so first year, no
First
increase.
year, no increase. Second year, you can increase.
But you say generally. So is that
because people do try to. Because again, there's no law or body that you can kind of take it up with. There's no cap because there's no index. So therefore, if I had a property that's currently at 40,000 rent and I wanted to increase it to 80,000,
you could.
I could do that.
Right.
So it's kind of a take it or leave it situation.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, any other myths that you can bust about Ras Al Khaimah, seeing as everyone's become an expert?
Any myths? That's an interesting one. I've not heard in terms of myths. The land department does exist.
Is it called RLD?
No, it's just called Ras Al Khaimah Land Department.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
RAK
sense.
LD, yeah.
Land department does exist. Transfers do take place at the land department and should take place at the land department. There is a 4% transfer fee. Contrary.
How's that split? Who pays that?
So generally, it's supposed to be 2 and 2, 2% buyer, 2% seller, the same way that it is here. But it does end up being 4% on the buyer because it's just built into the price otherwise, which is the norm. So yeah, most fees are paid by the buyer in terms of NOC and transfer fees. But in terms of myths, no, I've not heard anything.
That you're like, what are they saying?
You do still see camels on the road. So people are like, oh yeah, you see camels. Yes, you do. Not very frequently anymore since there's a lot more traffic, especially going down the actual road. I don't know if you've been on the road.
I was there I went to the Waldorf a couple of
So you would have taken the Humpy Road, which comes off and then straight into Al Hamra.
No, I don't recall, but I do recall dropping my friends at Marjan Island.
Okay.
And as we were leaving, it was speed bumps at every 5 seconds there's a speed bump.
There's a lot of speed bumps, yes, especially on Marjan Island. Not so many elsewhere, but Marjan Island seem to want to control that traffic, yes.
Fair enough, because otherwise it ends up being a racetrack. Okay, speaking of racetrack, lifestyle. Describe the lifestyle of RAK living.
Lifestyle is very, very different to Dubai. If you're comparing the two, it's very, very quiet. So whereby we would be stuck on the road for an hour. If you were going from home to probably the office in Dubai, an average commute is 30 to 40 minutes, unless you're lucky and you're close by. There, you're probably 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes tops, essentially. Even if you're going across the city, I mean, we're based in Al Hamra. If I'm going to the land department, which is across the other side, I'm looking at 15, 20 minutes tops. So it's a much quieter lifestyle. It's a cheaper lifestyle also, whereby here you're kind of tempted to go to the malls, spend big. It's not really it.
Do you even have a mall?
We do have a mall.
What's it called?
Our office is in the mall. So there's quite a few malls. There's Al Hamra Mall, there's Manar Mall, there's RAK Mall. So there are malls.
Do you have Spinneys?
There is a Spinneys. Okay. We have a really big Spinneys just under our office.
I've just been to hotels.
Apparently, it's one of the largest Spinneys in the UAE. So it's actually a really big Spinneys. But in terms of lifestyle, here you go downstairs, you've got bars, you've got nightlife. There, it's not the same.
So who's living there? What's the kind of makeup?
I would say an older generation. People that want the sun, the sea, the sand, but also don't want the hustle and bustle of Dubai.
So is it kind of
and they don't want the stresses and the nuances that come with it.
Is it the kind of Costa del Sol of?
Yes, yes, I would say. So we have, in terms of our top buyers last year, top buyers and renters were people from the UK. So expat community, also people that want maybe a second home, somewhere, a nice base to come out to. Spain, France, all of those are great, but a lot of people love coming to the UAE now for the lifestyle that it offers. Dubai is maybe a little bit more expensive. So when you're talking about
just a little bit.
So when you're talking about value for money, and in terms of beachfront property, Ras Al Khaimah affords a beachfront community, but at a fraction of the price.
Where would you put your money?
I have put my money obviously in Dubai, but also in Ras Al Khaimah.
Okay.
And also in the UK. So in terms of, I would say diversify.
So I played this game with Lewis where I was like, if you had up to 1 million, what would you be buying in RAK?
Okay. So in Ras Al Khaimah,
this is your personal opinion. This should not be construed as financial advice.
Absolutely. 1 million, you'd get 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments in a beachfront community.
No, I want to know what you would be buying.
What
with
I
1
would
million.
buy, so what I have been buying myself is properties in Marjan Island. So we have quite a big portfolio, me personally, as well as the company. So we have a large portfolio in Marjan Island.
Any particular development
in a
or
development
project?
called Pacific. So it offers really good value for money right now. It's a fraction of the price that these off-plan launches are coming in at. So as an example, you can pick up units at less than 1,000 dirhams per square foot, when the new launches are anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 dirhams per square foot. So there, I just see value for money is definitely there. Rental returns, honestly, not great unless you're doing short term.
Right.
But if you're in it for the long term, there's definitely movement to be made in terms of
But I imagine,
increase in value.
like for short-term rentals there, you probably have really good weekends. You perform
Yes.
well on the weekends, but Monday to Friday, not so great. But now with all these new projects coming up, the Win, all the contractors, everybody who's associated with that needs somewhere to stay.
Correct. And not so much even on a per night basis. A lot of people are coming in on 3 to 6 month contracts.
Right.
And they're looking for short-term options until they decide where
What
they
to
want
do,
to be, in terms of where they like, what area they would prefer. So we're definitely seeing a lot more interest in not, nightly rentals, but more monthly,
Okay.
3 to 6 months.
Right. And then if you had 2 to 3 mil,
2 to 3 mil, I would look at picking up a townhouse or a villa in one of the older developments in either Al Hamra Village or Min Al Arab.
okay, and 5 mil plus.
5 mil plus, limited. Honestly, very limited in
Interesting.
terms of options. So when you get to that 5 million bracket, there is barely anything on the market or barely anything being sold. So you're kind of looking at the 1 to 2,
Right.
or the kind of 3 to 5.
So stick around there and just buy multiple.
Yes.
If you have 5.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. We've talked about the lifestyle. We've talked about what's happening. Given some home buyer tips. Have we given home buyer tips?
No, I'd say
Do we
not.
have
We've
any?
not touched on that.
All right. Let's give some home buyer tips.
For me, I think it's important that when a buyer is looking, is to do your homework. Number one, on the agency that you're going to work with. Because if you find the right agent, everything becomes super easy.
Yeah.
They're going to narrow down the options for you. They're going to find you something within your price range. And they're going to, if they're an established agent and care about their reputation, they're also going to get you the best possible property,
Yeah.
and not try and sell you something that they're going to make the most money on, which seems to be the case at the moment with people trying to sell off-plan, because generally off-plan, the developers do offer the most commission. But we like to see it as we're in it for the long term. We want to help that buyer. We then want to resell that property at a profit, ideally, and also help them either rent or then offer our management services. We manage upwards of 200 properties at the moment, so we want that long-term relationship with that buyer, and that's what we're after. But at the same time, my advice to buyers is answer your phone. We get so many buyers that inquire, they'll send a WhatsApp, they'll email, they'll call, and then they don't answer. So you're following up. So I kind of, it's kind of that, why did they inquire if they weren't interested? But if you're not interested, or you've purchased somewhere else, or your situation has changed, for me, it's just be honest. Rather than someone keep badgering you and following up, just be honest and say, I'm not interested.
Rather than ghost people.
Yeah, rather than ghost people. Because I think that's, when people kind of, especially in this market, real estate agents have such a bad name. And that's all I hear. Before being a real estate agent, people used to look up to you and think, oh, well, now they kind of look down.
Yeah.
I try and avoid saying I'm a real estate agent now. I'm like, oh, God, they're going to
Managing
judge me.
partner.
They're going to judge because they've not had good experiences. But that is also because we are inundated with inquiries. So sometimes you could be working on 100 inquiries, but you're following up people that are not interested.
Yeah.
So if you had kind of a bunch of people that you knew were super interested and you just worked on them, I think the service level would actually be a lot higher.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Or you waste a lot of time in doing a show and tell because people don't know what areas they want to focus on. we are not paid by the hour. Right. We are paid when a deal closes. Yeah. So when you're spending 3, 4, 5 hours, even sometimes a day I've spent with clients previously, spent showing them around, and then they ghost you. I've just wasted a whole day in showing you,
and I had this conversation with Callum. Was like, you're not tour guides.
We're not tour guides,
and maybe people don't understand that there is no basic salary in for real estate agents, certainly here,
which I find surprising. But I think some people just don't care.
They just think, oh, you're making loads of money, so it doesn't matter. But not
everybody is. And, you know, for some people, they're driving around, they're spending money on petrol, salik, especially in Dubai, petrol, salik. You spend hours on the road for someone to ghost you.
Yeah, just a bit of courtesy.
Yeah, just a little bit of courtesy.
And I think as well, if like agents, and this is something that I'm teaching on my online courses, join my school community, I'll put it here, how to do a viewing. Okay, so you go and do a viewing, 9 times out of 10, the agent's like, here's the this, here's the that, you know, pointing out the obvious.
Yes.
Rather than asking questions that will get the open and honest answers. And I always actually say to agents, don't offer your opinion. Like, you know, when they say, I really like this kitchen.
Yes.
So, well, you're not moving in here.
Very true.
Why do I care what you think about?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would your tips be on? Let's have a little educational.
For me, I would try and ask as much as possible before you even arrange a viewing.
Right. Qualification.
So the qualification. Okay. And I think if you get the qualification right, you can really narrow down what that client is looking for and potentially secure something within the first or the second viewing rather than waste time. Yeah. But again, your buyer and your tenant need to be open to divulging that information. Right. So a lot of the time you'll get a budget or you get closed answers. Help us help you.
Right.
That's the bottom line. So the more information that you give the agent, the easier it is for us to find you something that's going to meet those requirements. And I'm not saying those agents that are inexperienced. I'm talking about if you're dealing with a decent agent, they should be able to, from a good qualification, narrow down 5 properties off the top of their head, which they feel would be the right fit.
You know, as a consumer, when I come to buy or rent, I'm super upfront. Even if they didn't ask me the question, I'm like, now listen here. Here's what I want. Here's how much I can spend. Here's what it needs to do. Do not show me anything. I'm quite bossy.
You're the ideal person.
And I say, do not show me anything that's got X. You know, because I don't have time to waste on viewing nonsense properties. So I give that information. But as an agent, if you're not blessed to have a client like me that is going to divulge that information, what are the top 3 questions you'd be asking buyers?
My first one
Forget about budget. You know.
Yeah.
Was that going to be your first one?
No, my first one would be essentially what 3 things are the most important for you.
Right.
Is it view? Is it size?
Can we just pause on that one for a second?
Yes.
What 3 things, your top 3 requirements? How many people ask that? I have never been asked that question.
Really? That's shocking.
Never. No. I've been asked, when do I need to move?
Yes.
What my budget is and which areas I'm looking at. That's it.
Those are super important.
They're basic questions.
They're the basics, but that's a given.
Yeah, that's it. The property that I inquired about should have given you clues into that.
Correct.
So continue.
But sometimes it doesn't. So for me, it's important to understand someone's lifestyle. You know, what do they do in the evening? Where do they want to be? Do they go to the gym? Do they enjoy golf? As an example, I live in Golden Mile. There's no gyms in Golden Mile. Would I then recommend Golden Mile to someone that is into a pool and a gym? Probably not, unless I understand that they have a Privily membership. So they can just pop across the road to the Hilton and all the other hotels that offer those facilities. So I think it's, rather than even understanding, like you said, the budget, when do they need to move? Understand what that client's lifestyle is about. Where do they work? Where do their children go to school? All of those things are probably way more important than probably the budget, because when you understand their lifestyle, you can then understand where they want to be and then put them in a place that probably fits their budget.
Yeah.
That's
also,
the way I would work.
I bear in mind that the budget people give you is not necessarily the price they end up spending.
Correct.
Right? It goes both ways. Like they either end up spending way less or way more than they told you.
For me,
there's some kind of filter,
yes,
isn't there? Like
yes,
or
this
buffer. It's
Uh,
like I'm going to tell the agent our budget is X.
Yes, but I find that it can, like you said, when it goes both ways, some people are also not realistic about their budget.
Right.
So they want a 4-bedroom independent villa with a pool, but they've got a fraction of the budget that can afford that lifestyle.
Now, a bad agent will just be like, yeah, you want that for that price? Yeah, okay, see you later, bye.
Yes.
A good agent will be like, you do realize what you've just described does not exist.
Correct. And educate them as to the nearest comparable options or what a more cost-effective alternative would be. Or try and provide solutions. So it may be that it's not available in that area, but if they went a little bit further out, they might get their property, but their commute would be a little bit longer. So it's just it's trying to tailor your service to what that client needs.
Right.
Because sometimes people just need a dose of reality.
Yeah.
They've got an idea about what they want, but the affordability is just not there.
Yeah, maybe they saw a fake listing or something,
which happens all the time.
Right, so they can be forgiven for thinking that property exists, but it's down to you to explain.
Correct.
Any other favourite questions, non-budget related?
No, can't think of anything off the top of my head, to be honest.
Oh, this will inspire you and you'll remember. Tell me what you've already seen.
Oh, that's a given for me.
No, but that's for you. That's been doing it for 20 years.
Yes.
So someone who's watching this who hasn't, has only been in real, like that is one of the most important questions.
Absolutely. What have you already seen? Yeah. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it?
That question alone will save you about 10 hours worth of...
100%. But any agent that's experienced should be asking that question as a standard.
I've never been asked.
I don't know what agents you've been working with. This is really worrying.
I've never been asked, what have you already seen?
Wow.
And why they didn't make the cut. Or one question that I used to ask as well is, have you offered on anything already?
Yes.
Because that will tell you what your
100%.
target is.
Yes.
That, how much.
And also how serious they are. Because if they've already offered, it means they're ready to move.
Yeah.
Anyone that's kind of, like you said, when you ask about, when do you need to move, if they're 6 months down the line, especially with the way the UAE market is, the prices move so much. Right. It's like a pointless exercise showing somebody now. It's fine sending examples of what's available, but actually going out there and getting in your car and showing somebody is a complete waste of time.
And then let's talk about on the viewing.
Yes.
So actually on the showing. So I think this is something that a lot of agents get wrong as well, is the way they show a property. Do you have a particular style?
I generally don't show properties anymore.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. So I'm not working with clients on the ground. I may show a couple to exclusive clients that only want to work with me, but that's people that I've known for a very long time. But generally, I let the client take a look around themselves.
Yeah.
Everyone can see a bathroom.
Yeah.
Everyone can see a kitchen, and let them ask the questions. That's the way I would like to work with a client. And I feel that they appreciate that a lot more. You should be listening, not talking. Yeah. Everyone can see what the view is. Yeah. Everyone can see the kitchen. They can see the kitchen. And I think it's letting them ask the questions, but then also going into a little bit more detail about what they can't see in that property.
Exactly.
So perhaps how long the property has been empty. What
and
the
tell
landlord,
the truth.
Yeah, tell the truth. It's always going to come out.
Yeah, well, you can smell it, can't you?
You can definitely smell it.
How empty, how long it's been empty for.
What the landlord is like. How open are they to kind of fixing things when things. The landlord yourself. Some landlords are very into keeping their property in prime condition, and they don't mind how much it costs to do that.
Can I tell you something?
Go on.
I actually Google my prospective landlords.
Wow.
I need to know who they are. Go on their Instagram. I do my reference checks on them.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, those reference checks are only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
You still can't understand what that landlord is like or how they're going to react to certain situations. So I think it's really important to explain especially to a tenant, it's more important, obviously, when it comes to a tenant, to kind of manage expectations. I know some landlords who don't want to spend a penny.
Yeah.
So be very clear on that expectation. Say, look, it's going to be challenging if there's a maintenance issues. Be prepared.
Yeah.
Some tenants are open to that. If they really like that property, they will be open to it. And I'm not talking about if a water heater bursts. That's a given. Of course, the landlord's going to. But it's also the speed that landlord is going to react. We know some you can't even get hold of them to check if the property is available or when you're putting an offer forward. So you can kind of understand how responsive they're going to be if there's an emergency. So
or you go for properties that are managed.
You go for a property that's managed, or you take out a maintenance contract. These are the conversations
Not
that
me.
you should.
I'm not taking out a maintenance contract as a tenant.
You can, and sometimes we push that. If the landlord's not willing to do it, the tenant should be willing to do it, because at the end of the day, if a light bulb needs changing, if a hinge falls off,
minor maintenance,
take a little maintenance contract. It's a few thousand dirhams a year, but it gives you that peace of mind that if there is an emergency, someone's going to come out, within 24 hours to get that fixed. I think that's certain things that you should just be mindful of and explain to potential clients, which a lot of people skim over, and then when it's a problem, it becomes an issue. And then that's when, again, estate agents get a bad reputation because we don't manage the property, and they come back to you 6 months later and we have no control over that property. So if you're honest and upfront from day one, will save you a lot of headache in the long run.
As well, and it's hard to know because, of course, you never lived there, but if you've got access to the person that lived there before, to be able to give a prospective buyer or a prospective tenant a ballpark figure on what the utilities cost, how much the chiller charges are. You know, there's a building in the IFC which I steered clear of because someone said the chiller is ridiculous. So, and it's that kind of intel. Of course, as an agent, you're not going to go in and say the chiller is ridiculously expensive, but you can say the last tenant, they were on average paying X, and you know, you can expect to pay this amount.
Yes.
It helps with their, because they might have had a completely different figure in mind, which changes their budget altogether.
Absolutely. 100%. It's super important, especially like you said, when you have some buildings with additional chillers and it's not included in the DIWA, people need to be mindful of those aspects. And that's definitely something that people should be explaining on the viewing and being mindful of.
Okay. So speaking of cost consciousness, how are prices in, what are the starting prices in the head of the tent?
Okay. In terms of pricing, so you've got, like I said, 3 or 4 main developments. So Al Hamra, starting prices now for something ready, you could pick up a studio for around 350,000. Marjan Island, you're looking...
Okay, so that studio...
Yes.
That studio's equivalent in Dubai, how much would that be?
That studio's equivalent... I mean, if you're looking like for like, you're looking at Dubai Marina, JBR, Palm, so 800,000.
Okay, less than half price.
Yeah, less than half the price. Marjan Island, so towards... the start of last year, they were around the same price, but they've increased quite considerably. So the price have increased by about 30%. So from Jan to December last year. So you're looking at about 500,000 on a studio in Marjan Island. Those are ready and occupied. If you're looking at kind of off-plan, you're looking at around 800,000 mark. So again, quite a considerable price difference between ready and off-plan. Okay. And then in addition to that, you'd be looking at 4% transfer cost, 2% commission as standard, same as Dubai.
And in terms of like what you can project the increase, of course, I think it's important to note that the gaming license still not clear what kind of gaming it is.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So it could be pinball machines at the Win, for all we know.
That's right.
Based on it being a casino that comes in, approved, done, built, in action, what do you expect prices to do?
Since I started, I've never given price projections. People hold you to it and they're like, well, she said it's going to, so I've never sold property on that basis. So for me, regardless of the casino coming in what way, shape or format that gaming comes in, look at it as a long-term investment. Right. Look at it as a lifestyle choice as to what that island is going to provide and what it's going to deliver in the future. It's very similar to saying Palm Jumeirah. Palm Jumeirah doesn't have gaming, but people are there because of the lifestyle. I live there because of the lifestyle. I'm there because I'm opposite beach clubs, the beach, the pools, the hotels, the restaurants. You know, my favorite restaurant, as an example, is Sushi Samba. That's the lifestyle that I like to live. So it's a lifestyle choice. It's the peace and quiet that it gives you. It's now the choice of the branded residents that are going to be there. So it's the be all. It's not, the win is not the be all and an end all, is what I would say.
There's more to it. There's more to RAK than
There's
winning.
More to
There's more
RAK
to RAK
than the win. Exactly.
Like that one. Okay. And what are the projections you're hearing from the Dubai? So what are your investors telling you that the other agents are saying?
So some investors, I know we're speaking to investors who are trying to resell properties. They've been promised that they could put 10 to 20% down on these off-plan units and then flip them straight on. The market is not there yet. It's not Dubai. It's not a quick, let's put 10% down and flip the unit on. So most developers now are actually saying you've got to pay 40% before you can resell. Okay. So I think that's something that investors should definitely be mindful of, is read the terms and conditions and be prepared to pay 40%, but also be prepared to pay 100%. Because if the resale market is not there, then be prepared to be able to pay for that property and also then look at renting it or reselling once it's ready. I think there'll definitely be more of a market then rather than trying to flip off plan. Okay.
Well, that leads me on to the questions from Instagram. So we told Instagram.
I'm surprised there were some.
We told Instagram, I've got two for you, that you were coming on the show, and if they had any questions for you or about Ras Al Khaimah. Okay. Now, one of my followers was very specific. I have a Mina Al Arab beach villa. Old phase, not the new phase.
Okay.
Cash out or hold because the prices have gone crazy?
100% hold.
Okay.
So a lot of the new launches have come in at 6-7 million compared to the first phase, which was a lot lower. So
you told me there was nothing, very little above 5 million.
Yeah, no, in terms, they're all sold.
Okay.
So there's new launches that are going to take place, but they're not on the market yet. So 100% hold.
Okay, there you go. There's
mileage in those.
So hold for like
2 to 3 years minimum.
There's your advice. I hope it was useful.
Yes.
Okay, and how is Hunt and Harris handling the boom in RAK, both with buyers and competition? I think we've touched on it a little bit, but how is Hunt and Harris dealing with it?
We haven't changed anything that we're doing. We still want to provide that high level of service. We continue to do what we do. We're not worried about the new competition coming in. We're very, very good at what we do. Like I said, we're after long-term relationships. A lot of these companies are going to arrive, they're going to sell off plan, and then they're going to disappear. Right. We've been there over 14 years. We'll probably still be there in another 14 years. That's the plan anyway. But we're not doing anything different. You'll see that by our Google. I think we're rated 4.6, 4.7 on Google. Generally, 99% of people are happy with our services. And that is the bottom line. We don't need to do anything differently. We just need to provide that service to clients and they will come.
Okay. Nice answer. And now your advice to agents out there on the market that are thinking about getting into, well, they're not agents yet, but someone who's thinking about getting into real estate. What would your advice be?
My advice will be, don't think you're going to become rich overnight. It takes a lot of hard work and graft. And I think people expect immediate results, and it doesn't work like that. They see some agents doing well, but equally
That's
there are
not the
some
norm.
agents that are really, really struggling. You know, they struggle for leads. They struggle to convert. Again, we talk about ghosting, clients ghost, and it becomes really, really demotivating. So if you're going to get into the real estate industry, go into the right company that's going to give you the right support, that's going to provide, you know, initially leads and listings to get started, but be prepared to go out there and generate your own leads and listings thereafter. Because once that pipeline stops, what do? You need to build that market for yourself. It's building your own mini marketplace whereby you've constantly got business coming to you.
Okay, excellent advice. How about agents that have started already and they're struggling to get noticed? What would your advice be? Your golden nuggets on getting noticed.
Struggling to get noticed. I would have said, if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said social media. But I think you'll also become lost in social media now because everybody has jumped on that bandwagon. Everyone is putting out reels, doing TikTok, Snapchat, anything and everything. But I would say the most important thing is, are they actually sharing knowledge? So what we spoke about and what we touched upon, even to the end user. So what advice are they giving? What advice are they giving when a tenant has gone in and the landlord hasn't maintained that property? I still don't see much of that. I see people trying to push their own agendas. But how much,
just go viral, perhaps.
Or go viral, perhaps. But how much are they benefiting that end user or the actual client? That I still feel is lacking. So I'd say if there was maybe a little bit of a niche that you could get into and you want to get noticed, I would say maybe that's the way to go.
And set up your own YouTube channel. It's the number one place where people go, how do I? Or how do
I? And I feel that that's something that the agents here don't tend to focus on.
You've got to work on your personal brand.
Yes.
You've got to, I mean, the social media stuff is very basic. You have to be there, but there's a lot of things that they're doing right and wrong.
You know, people put videos out there of looking at property or take a look at this, but how many of them are actually sharing knowledge, or even sharing knowledge how to go about a property transfer?
Yeah.
Again, I see videos all day coming up on my Instagram, but I can't think of the last time I saw someone explaining a process on a tenancy in an Ejari as an example. So maybe that's what you need to look out for.
Your future tenants do not want to see videos of you running around asking people how much rent do you pay, right? They want to know.
Yes.
How do I pay my rent? How do I register a Ejari?
Yes.
How do walk me through?
Yes.
So can we have some more educational content out there, please? I mean, this is what I'm trying to do. And if you may not have noticed, you have been hypnotized into an educational YouTube channel. It's a show, but
and the worst thing is just pointing this out. You do it all day long. Just document it and put it on a video and share it. People would really appreciate it.
So I can't remember which old mentor of mine said something like, if you're going to do something more than once, make a process for it, right? So that is kind of business. But for marketing purposes or for agents, I would say if you're being asked a question more than twice, it's a common request. Put out a video about it.
Absolutely. I mean, people do put out videos on frequently asked questions, but I think, like you said, internal processes are there. But in terms of external and explaining those processes, I've just not seen it. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. I don't spend all day on social media. So maybe someone has put it out there. I don't know. You might know better than.
I spend a lot of time on social media. 2 more. Get results. How to get results. Your golden nuggets.
Get results. Calls. People are
Pick
scared of picking up the phone. I would say that's
hiding behind WhatsApp.
Hiding behind what is my biggest bugbear. Pick up the phone and call someone and get the answer. You'll send a WhatsApp, you might not get. pick up the phone. If they don't answer, that's absolutely fine. Also, don't send a WhatsApp. Send a voice note.
There's a new thing.
Get
You
behind
can
your
send
voice.
you can send video notes now. Have you
Yes,
seen that?
video notes.
If you hold down the camera button, I mean, apparently everybody already knows about this, but for the people like me that don't know, if you hold and press down the camera button on your WhatsApp chat, it records a little circle video of you. It's better than a voice note, a video note.
Even if you don't want to be on camera. Some people don't. Some people are still, I'm still uncomfortable. You're in the wrong business. If you can't pick up the phone, you are in the wrong business. You need to be having conversations all the time. Next one, aside from listings, listings is key. If you've got the listings, you drive the leads.
Yeah.
And again, some people find listings really, really difficult. They find that a really hard part of the process. Training is key. Train yourself on how to generate.
Oh, she's not
listings.
stopping. Still more. Keep going.
Those will be my top
All
two.
right, okay.
Top two.
And referrals. How to go about getting referrals.
Ask. People just don't ask.
Yeah.
So we say this all the time to our team. It's like, how many referrals did you get from that client? None.
How many did you ask for?
How many did you ask for? They don't ask.
Yeah.
So I think it's really normal, like you said, in UK, in America, you'll send a formal email. Oh, it was a pleasure working with you. It would be great if you can recommend someone that I can speak to. People just don't ask it.
Yeah.
Get into the habit of asking. So
I mean,
is there anyone
your
that
Uber
would...
driver's asking for a review the minute you step out the car.
Is there anyone that you know that would benefit from my services? It's a simple question. Is there anyone that you know that would be interested in buying and selling or renting a property? If you don't ask, you don't get. And you'd be surprised as to how many people will give you somebody if you ask. But it's also ensuring, in terms of referrals, fine, you've closed a deal, you've asked once, but how do you stay in their mind? So something that we do is send out regular reports on pricing, just information on Ras Al Khaimah. It's just really important to stay in that person's mind.
Be the authority.
And be the authority, because people forget. They've bought, they're not interested, they don't need your service, but they've moved on. But how do you stay in their mind? So it's ensuring that you're sending communication that keeps you at the top of their pile.
Okay, so in the spirit of referrals, just as a kind of example, I'm going to this wasn't planned, but I'm going to ask you for a referral.
Okay.
Who would you like to see on the show? Who would you recommend to come on the show?
Who would I recommend? So someone that pushed me into this space.
Which space?
Who I can, in terms of speaking publicly, because I was never a big fan, and I'm still not. But he really pushed me, was Spencer Lodge.
Okay.
And I think you guys would have great banter together and have so much to say about estate agents in the UAE market.
That might end up being a 2-hour special.
Oh my God, I would love it. So Spencer, I think you should get Spencer on your show.
Spencer, if you're watching this, call me. Lewis has my number. Neema has my number.
Yes, I'm going to share it, Spence.
Actually, I met him at my cousin's wedding years
No
ago.
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was at my cousin's wedding. He probably won't remember me, but okay. And I think that's it for today. We've had
Fabulous.
thousands of golden nuggets from you. Okay, not thousands.
There's a few.
Tens.
There's a few in there.
Tens of golden nuggets. And I learned a little bit more about RAK. It's more than the Waldorf Astoria and the Ritz-Carlton.
It's definitely more than the Waldorf.
And it definitely will be much more than just the win. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed that, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.